Everybody else set? You're good? We'll bring this Washington County Department of Public Works Committee meeting to order. Everybody's here except Supervisor McCulick, who is excused. This meeting was posted as required by state law at the county clerk's office on the 17th day of August 2026. Notice is also sent to Washington County Daily News, Express News, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, WTKM Radio, My Community Now, Hartford Times Press, Kewaskum Statesman, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. We'll stand for a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Minutes. Does anybody see anything that needs to be updated, changed? Are we all good? All right, we'll post them we'll leave them as posted. And we'll move on to discussion items, 2026 resolution information technology. Joe, you got the floor?
All right. Well, good afternoon. Just bringing back the idea of shared services again to the committee here. This was also presented to the Public Safety Committee in regards to the fact that we wanted their opinion and discussion on supporting our sheriff's department. The sheriff is here today. He is in support of this as well. What we're doing is looking at doing a kind of joint venture with the Village of Germantown's police department only. Okay, so this would be IT shared services for the police department of Germantown. And then part of this position would also be used to fill in for our sheriff's department here. The sheriff's department is one of the busiest departments that we have as far as IT support. As you can imagine, there's body cams, squad cars, cameras, all this different technology. And I would say it's a little bit more than one person can handle from IT support. So this position would help backfill some of that support and get some additional training and expertise on the sheriff's applications that they use for dispatching, for writing tickets, and kind of all that software. Germantown is in a very similar situation. They use our applications for dispatching squads and going through dispatch. They also use a lot of very similar technology that we use in their squad cars and everything. So this is a position that would benefit them as well as benefit the county in that aspect, that we would have someone to fill in for when our support engineer is on vacation or the workload is kind of large because of maybe new squads, new onboarding of sheriffs, deputies. So this is kind of a win-win for Germantown and the county. Excuse me. Initial plans were talked about a 50-50 cost share. And then, as was brought up in the public safety, there was discussion at the Village of Germantown's General Governments and Finance Committee that they wanted to see about maybe a 75% county covered and 25% village covered of the funds for this position. This was also a item that our county executive supported, the 75-25 split, as opposed to the 50-50. So I guess we're looking for feedback and action to bring this to the full board. And I'm open for questions.
Real quick, Joe. Just one question now. Again, the documents do say 50-50, and I know it was brought up verbally in the safety committee, right? Is this something, I see Brad's not here, is this something that we could pass as a 50-50 split here, but then make that change at the full county board because Josh isn't here either, and Josh can vouch then at that time and say, yeah, let's change it to 75-25, if that's the way they want to go at the full board?
If it's okay, if I may.
Yeah,
talk to the
absolutely.
chair. Thank you. So right now, if you look at the resolution, the only dollar amounts that are associated in it are way at the bottom of it in the fiscal notes. That mentions I'll call it a 50-50 split or split with the village. How a lot of these things end up working out is that the county board would approve the resolution. If you look in the main part of the resolution, it doesn't have a percentage in the main part of the resolution that you allow that the county executive to go ahead and negotiate as best faith and best terms with the village of Germantown at that point. Certainly the committee and board can make recommendations and what you'd like to see, 50-50, 75-25. Certainly the Public Works Committee can recommend a certain percentage that they'd like to, and the board can do that as well, or even include it as part of their resolution if they so desire. But as the resolution was written right now was to give as much flexibility as we can while we're negotiating, working back and forth with the village of Germantown.
Okay, yeah, and you're correct. The pack or the resolution doesn't have a dollar amount, but the packet
The
does.
packet certainly
which
does,
is why I was questioning that
Correct. That
if we need to change it or not. So
correct. The 75-25 Lily came out as Dr. Wappert expressed at the Village of Germantown of their general government and finance committee. We did watch that video, and basically the kind of the consensus was, well, if we don't ask for it, you never know what's going to got to ask, right?
Right.
So they're asking, and the county executive thought that was a fair request of them. That if you recall, our IT shared services now are funded 100% by the county. We talked about going from 100% down to a 50-50 split, down to 100%. Remember the policy that came a couple months ago
sure.
to this committee going that route. And maybe it's a step in between going from 100% county to 75% county to 50% to 100% or something along those lines. We are definitely getting some benefit in-house of this one as compared to the IT chair service that we're doing for Village of Kewaskum in the townships and whatnot. So there's definitely a higher component on it that we actually get a little more benefit in-house from that aspect.
Okay, sounds good. Supervisor Vispalak, you have something else to add?
Majority of the time for this full-time position, would it be split 75-25? I mean, I know the Village of Germantown only has a smaller need than what we would. I can just justify that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this position, I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, right? I just hear what the Village of Germantown is going through currently. And there's a lot of support that can be done for the Village of Germantown with the person sitting here, doing remote work. There's a lot of things that can be done remotely while this person's still here, so they can, conduct work here, fill in there, or if we have to send them there and they come back, however it may look. I mean, I can't give you a good estimate on the split time exactly.
I get that. And that person would be utilized for other communities and stuff too.
So this person would be utilized for other municipalities that use our policing. So, the Kewaskum, they utilize our law enforcement applications. So when there's setups and stuff like that involved with other municipalities that use our law enforcement, absolutely, this person would be involved in that. I agree.
And to get a little flavor, if I may talk to the sheriff, remember these are round numbers and estimates. Please don't quote me these in the paper when I say these. The sheriff's department has around 200 employees. Village of Germantown has around 50. So if you look at that, just from that standpoint of how many sheriff our one person is be able to support 200 people right now with a heavy workload and definitely getting behind versus 50 people at the Village of Germantown. So that's where we think we can utilize a lot of that time on our own for our own purposes here at the county, as well as support Village of Kewaskum, Town of Trenton, Village of Slinger, and those other communities that we support or the sheriff supports as well.
That position based out of the facility.
Yes.
Correct, down in our sheriff's office. And the one other thing I want to add to this too is the sheriff has very niche applications that only our individual who's currently supports them. So my current IT staff does not have that knowledge and does not have that training. So this is an opportunity to give us some redundancy to better support our sheriff's office as well as providing the benefit to to Germantown, which I think is very, very important for us from a high availability, inventive, God forbid someone get hit by a bus or something like that. But it gives us the opportunity to have someone to be able to fill in then in the emergency situations.
Okay.
Couple questions. So, it sounds like you had already kind of said that we are on mostly the same technology. So going forward, would you see that there could be a cost savings to both Germantown and the county going forward in making purchases and additional technologies? Like, would that be something we'd see? And then my next question would be, you mentioned a couple other municipalities that are already being serviced by the county. What other municipalities would be out there that would potentially want to share in this that we don't already have included besides Germantown?
So to answer the first question, yes, I believe there would be some buying power. We've worked out in the past, we've worked out deals with a laptop and software vendor that, hey, if we commit to X number of devices, they'll give us this discount. And we have given that to other municipalities that we service for IT shared services. They've purchased off of it, we've purchased off of it. So I do see that continued benefit. This also gives us an opportunity to help kind of streamline things across the county and all the municipalities where we have a single technology. If someone's in a bind, county IT can say, hey, yeah, we can help support, especially when it comes to public safety and stuff like that. As far as other municipalities, I do see this being a benefit in the future. I mean, right now we do not have agreements with the village of Jackson, the village of Slinger. And I think those are prime opportunities for us to say, hey, this is a model that we're working with Germantown. Would you be interested in as well?
Police departments be City West Bend zone.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. The city of West Bend is the only police department that we currently do not engage with. They have their own software. They have their own 911 dispatch center.
So what would the capacity be if with Germantown we're looking for one full time? If some of these other guys want to jump in, Jackson, Slinger, Hartford, what capacity do we have to absorb other municipalities with this one personnel, or when would we have to look at addition?
I would have to analyze to kind of see what the workload looks like. Based on what Germantown presented, I think this half individual there and half here, or whatever the split may be, I think that would be sufficient. I would have to do an analysis to see kind of what their workload looks like, how many officers do they have, how many squads do they have, and then we could take that into consideration. So I can't give you a definite answer on that at this point.
And are you speaking of when we talk about the other municipalities, are you talking just their police departments? Are you talking okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Okay. Great.
Share. And it seems like this could be very viable and something that would catch on. So it might be interesting for our group to know, what capacity we would have to continue to absorb. And obviously some municipalities are larger than others that we could maybe absorb into this position. But at what point might this catch fire and we want to, we need to grow some legs and, potentially hire an additional. And then just so I think we would know when we present it to the full board, when we're talking about the split, right? How that might change if somebody else decides that they would want to follow Germantown suit and jump in on this with us. So that might be good for future reference and growth.
Absolutely. And that is something we have been thinking about. We've kind of, I think in the past we presented, what does it look like for the whole county? And this is definitely, we're forward thinking when it comes to that aspect. But yes, very well, note taken.
Yep, same with shared services.
Yep.
That demand's getting bigger and bigger too as we
Right.
go along. So,
Being specialized makes a lot of sense.
yep, you bet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, our system engineer in the sheriff's department right now, he's great. He does a very good job. I think sheriff can speak to that. And I think he could be a value, and his knowledge could be a value for all the police departments in our county.
Are there any other Supervisor Gallitz?
And I think a couple follow-ups. So on the actual need, and as Supervisor Litzel said, the capacity now, but also for future work. So I'm struggling to understand if we're bringing this on and maybe 25% is with Germantown, the other 75%, is there work day in and day out? And then if so, who was doing that work and does that free up time for them? So were they crunched and couldn't get the work done? Or are we just looking to provide a additional person? But we keep adding FTE and that's a cost to, which gets to my next question about financing. We
Mhm.
talk about a potential grant, what's the likelihood to get that? And then it said subsequently that would be in the budgeting for 26, 27. That means all of us are gonna have to approve that and find out where the money comes from.
Right.
So I guess I'm trying to understand what's the ROI for this position today and in the future?
Yeah, so the workload, I can vouch for our sheriff's department. It is the busiest department we have. And as I mentioned earlier, they're not, my whole IT staff cannot support them, right? There's very unique applications that they use. Our current IT support guy comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes because he's on the phone with people in India to support this application. So what that does for him is that shortens his day and leaves the sheriff without support in the afternoon, later in the afternoon. So this is definitely going to add to that. There's also been projects that the work's just piling up on our current individual. And it's not work that the rest of my team can handle, right? And not work that the rest of the team can even do because of the knowledge. So this would definitely benefit our sheriff's office and release some of that backlog of work that is currently stacking up right now. Am I worried about him taking away work from my other engineer? Absolutely not. He'll be busy and he'll still have a backlog. And things are always changing in the sheriff's office. There's always squads as they, they phase out squads. There's always new squads that come in. That's very time consuming. Body cams is very time consuming. The different systems, the laptop setups, there's tons of work that I'm not worried about finding work for. I've had conversation with sheriff in the past that I don't think one guy is adequate enough for their sheriff's department. I could honestly probably find enough work for one full-time position just for the sheriff's department. So I have 2 full-time individuals down there. And then, yes, the Germantown, I think, is going to provide a workload for us as well. As far as costing, yes, you're correct. The current plan is we would use IT's fund balance. We have a fund balance. We've talked with our finance department that would cover it for this biennial budget to 26, 27. And then, yes, you're correct. It would be part of just the budgeting process for the 28, 29 budget. Oh, yes. And that is one thing that the county would be looking into is applying for the state of Wisconsin's Innovation Fund grant to help kind of offset some of those fees.
Yeah, Aaron Dahl talked about that at the executive committee yesterday, that he was trying to reach out to get more of those grant monies. So,
For 27, yes.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Correct.
There are a lot of limitations on those things. So, and I don't know why they tie our hands that much, but it's government, right? Any other questions?
So do I make sure I just understand? So you indicated that there's enough work today specific for sheriff department to support that, meaning some things either aren't getting done or B, we're stressing out existing staff. Is that a fair understanding?
That is a very accurate understanding, yes. And I wouldn't say the work's getting done, it's just getting backlogged, right? The work eventually gets done, but it's delayed for sure.
Logged in based upon a prioritization and some critical gets first and it gets pushed back. I understand that. Okay.
Correct.
Again, I'm concerned about the funding piece. So we're gonna pull from fund balance this year. And in the past, we've used county sales tax for shared services. So I know Aaron Dahl's not here and we tap that a lot, but is that being considered? Or is it going to be you guys finding more budget and tax levy?
I'll let Scott take this one.
Thank you. Yes, as Dr. Walber pointed out, so for this year, because by the time it gets to the county board in September, we post position, we're anticipating a lot of funds being needed this year for that particular position. Especially if you're splitting up 50-50 or 75-25 over the course of maybe a month or two of actually getting a person in here and getting labor. So this year, again, not a lot of dollars we think are going to be spent this year. Next year, again, we have been doing a good job of the innovation grant. We know how it works now. We know all the red tape we have to go through. So we're pretty confident for 2027 that hopefully that'll cover that for 2027. And then we talk about budget time in 27, that'd be in June of 27. That's when we talk to Aaron Dahl about how we're going to fund this thing going forward. Is it sales tax? Is it levy dollars? Is there another source that's out there potentially to do that? We've gotten some Homeland Security grants in the past, not saying that's viable or even an option, but stuff like that we always constantly look at to see how can we fund this thing, going forward after that. So I'd say for the next year and a half or thereabouts, we have a good solid plan. After that, we definitely got to work with our budget team to see what this looks like going forward.
I guess my question, going back to my question prior, would it make sense to go and ask some of the other municipalities to jump in on them also paying a cut for this if they wanted the shared IT to have this thing funded much further than even a 50 or 75% split? To me, I think knowing that we can fund it today, but we're not sure how we're funding it tomorrow, that sounds like something that we're dealing with another issue, and it is very uncomfortable. So I think if we had, a stronger plan on how it was being funded in perpetuity, if you will, that would probably be even a cleaner opportunity to present to the board.
Yeah, I think the problem we run into is just figuring out the capacity of that person right now is the biggest challenge, because the village of Germantown, and this is not knocking them, basically has one of their, is it a sergeant or somebody that they're doing their IT right now for them, is one of their deputies, or one of their police officers, excuse me. And so we think there's a little bit of a backlog there and things that get caught up. So I don't want to also promise us something that we can go to the village and at Slinger and do this, and then promise them something. Yes, we have some capacity, and we actually don't, because the sheriff's sitting behind me when I know he's got some projects he wants us to get done too. And so we get this person on board. There's that backlog on both agencies, I'm afraid. And so I don't want to overcommit at the beginning of it, but maybe that'd be something we could look at before we get to the budget next year. As far as what does that look like for the 28-29 budget, might be a maybe appropriate way to look at it.
So right now, Germantown has been comfortable with the 50-50 conversation? Or has that not gotten that far?
So they've been comfortable with the 75-25, according to their committee, is, what they're committed to.
Okay.
And again, just so that everybody's aware here, it does say 50-50 in there, and it does say half on I was looking at that on the bottom of the resolution. It does say which half would be shared with the village of Germantown. So I think if we pass it this way now, if they need to tweak the language, we can do it at the full board. Makes sense to you guys?
Certainly, I think it's a good discussion for the full board.
Yeah,
Is the
absolutely.
dollar amount, and if you certainly want to make a recommendation, you're certainly within your purview. But I think that the discussion should be had at the full board.
At the
some
full
point.
board, and pass it the way it is here, right? Any other questions? If not, I need a motion in a second.
A motion?
Okay. Motion by, I'm sorry, I can never remember your last name. So Stephanie?
Yep.
I'll probably butcher it though.
That's-
Second by Supervisor Galitz. Does anybody care to have the sheriff come speak on this as well before we take an actual vote? Does anybody need?
I can give you a little perspective if you'd like.
If you wish, I
Yeah.
mean, we're open to it, or you can share it for full board.
Sure.
Or do both.
So I think Supervisor Gallus brought up some very, very good points. And just to put it in perspective, so we mentioned that we have about 200 total employees, and I think the county has around 630 or 640. So almost a third of our total county employees work for the sheriff's office, with that one person supporting them. Backing up before these conversations even took place, I had some very direct conversations with IT, voicing my concerns about the workload of Lucas Karras, who's our current IT person that's assigned to the sheriff's office. Absolutely phenomenal. Comes in at 0 dark 30, stays still after hours. But my concern a little bit was burnout for him. But I'll be beyond that, and the doctor kind of alluded to this. My real concern was the backup availability. Because of those very specialized programs, having all of our IT eggs in one basket makes me very, very nervous. And this gives us the opportunity to spread it out a little bit.
If something happens to him, you're SOL,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Basically. Does that help clarify a few
Sounds
things?
kind of scary, actually, right?
It does, yes. we've been very, very fortunate.
Okay,
Thank you.
that sounds good. Thank you. Are we all good then with questions or?
My only concern is if we push it to the board with that last statement, half would be shared with Village of Germantown and half would be a county. Should it be accurate going to them? Should we amend that? That's my only concern. So we can do it later, but we're approving this now. Should it be 75%? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess I'm just kind of opening,
Spitballing,
Yeah.
yeah,
instead of pushing it through as is saying, well, we can change it later. No, that we should send it to them as it should be. That's how I would feel more comfortable.
yeah,
You
but
think?
I'd love it if Josh was here. I could ask him to verify that,
Yep.
is this in
Exactly.
fact what you want to do? And if
I can speak to that. He said that very words at the Public Safety Committee yesterday.
that
morning.
the safety
He
that
could
he
support
said he's
70
all right with 75, I mean,
Yes,
Then it-
well, then we would need a amendment, a
Amendment.
motion for an amendment or somebody to give an amendment that we could do to change that language if you want to do that. So does anybody?
Before we do that, a clarifying question or confirmation, I thought I heard earlier the demands or need of Germantown would only be 25 or up to 25% on a regular basis. Is that correct? Or hence, if they're gonna be paying for 25%, presumably they're gonna have you're or whomever this person's supervisor is gonna have to be allocating project time, work, et cetera. And if they're gonna pay for 25, if I'm Germantown and I'm paying 25, I wanna make sure I'm getting 25% of this FTE's capacity.
we'll work on that language in the memorandum. We have to have a memorandum of understanding with them. And that's something I'm sure Germantown will want as well inside that memorandum of understanding. I don't think that's a place for in the resolution, but I think definitely Germantown's gonna come to the table and saying if we're paying 25% or 50% or whatever the percentage ends up being, they're gonna make sure they see that coming back at them.
Right, so it's
Yes.
our understanding, both IT Director Wapert and Sheriff Schulte that only got 75%, right? Unless something is special project work because Germantown is expecting 25%.
I think any given days can be fluid,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Absolutely. That's what,
But on
we-
average,
on average, correct. On average, on a yearly average, as we talked to them, that yes, there are some weeks where we're gonna be the winner, some weeks we're gonna be the loser. Right, on this, just depending on the workload that needs to be done. If they get two squads in and they might both be down there a given day, it might, so not just committed to this one person being down there doing work, but it could be as well as Lucas going down there at some point too. So might have both of them working at the same time down there. So that's part of the benefit of having someone that can train alongside our current engineer.
So, and if you want, then I'd like to offer an amendment for line 34. That it would state, of which 25% would be shared by the Village of Germantown. And the balance, would be. County will fund, balance of it. Line 34 that.
Yep.
Um,
On the resolution.
yeah, instead of
Yep.
which half which 25% will be shared by the Village of Germantown, line 34. We're okay?
Does that make sense to you? Yep, okay, and then
To vote on the amendment, we have to vote on the amendment.
so you're making a motion on that
Yeah,
then?
I will offer a motion.
Okay, then I'll need a second.
second,
You can second by Supervisor Gallitz. And then all approved, say aye. Aye. Any no approves? And that motion passes. So now we gotta make a vote. We already made a motion
Yeah,
in a second. So now we gotta make a vote on the revised
the amendment
the amended resolution
to go to the full board.
to go to the full board.
Okay.
Yep. So all approved, say aye.
aye,
Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries with with the changes. I gotta try to keep it all straight, right?
Feel better going as it should be, not, maybe we could do it later. I don't,
No, I agree
Yeah.
with you because per way this is written, we're asking Germantown to pay 25% more than they are thinking they are. So
Mhm.
I think Germantown, speaking from Germantown, I could say this is
Okay,
very good.
thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
I think we're done now. Thank you. All right, item B, transit ridership report. Charlie, you coming up? I don't want to jump, but it looks like we got some more rides.
Yep, that's correct.
Awesome.
Let's see here.
Got a little report to give, or is it just a matter of reviewing and answering questions on the report?
So I did add the total number of individuals that was requested at the last meeting, because we had individuals each month for trips by fare type. So I added the total number of individuals, so you can see that some of the riders are repeat riders each month.
Oh, okay.
And that's in the upper right corner of
Yep.
that report.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see it get utilized more. Now, if we give more rides, since we're kind of providing the same amount of hours, in essence, that should bring down the cost per ride, right? That average cost should go down a little bit.
As long as they're shared trips, I mean, there's
Okay,
availability
there's a lot
of
more,
the drivers.
gotcha.
So it does depend on the length and of the trip and the efficiency of those new trips.
Sure. Does anybody else have any other questions with regards to this?
And then I also, on the second page, the average trips by hour and day of week, I had included the number of drivers we have uh, scheduled for each of those time periods and days of week. I grouped all the weekdays together just so there wasn't 7 bars at the bottom. So Monday
Okay.
through Friday is just a weekday.
Charlie, could you repeat that? Cause I do see Saturday drivers, the line 2 weekday, okay, weekday drivers, Sunday driver, got it.
Yep, that's correct.
Um. Would it be too much to ask to add a total? Next time, so you got 5 AM, 6 AM, for each hour, a total. I know I could do that in my head, but it's nice just to see it easily.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because it begs the question, when you look at the volume of drivers or rides, precipitously drops off after 5, which would make sense. And if we were able to track how many of those were employment versus medical, most doctor offices that close at 5. So with the operating time till 9, does that mean that someone could order a ride up until 9, or the ride has to finish by 9?
Well, yeah, the ride has to finish and the driver goes back to the dispatch center at 9.
Got it.
So it's scheduled around that.
Typically, you're scheduling a last pickup at like 8:30 if it's within a.
Yeah, depending on the location.
Can you do that graph based on?
Do you see a, year over year summer pickup versus, I mean, is there like seasonality to this at all as well, or?
I think if you look at the upper left-hand chart that's on there that says ridership, we give you that
Mhm.
23, 24, 25,
Okay.
and how many
thank you.
rides
Yes.
per month. So we certainly can graph that out. But I was just asking Charlie, based on Supervisor Gallotz's comment, that the graph that you saw down below about how many people are actually riding, we could also provide a graph of, I think we can anyway, Charlie's a whiz with the numbers anyway, a graph of the employment, the social, same type of graph. We'd be probably adding a third page because we can't put too much information on one graph, but the trip purposes of employment, medical, social, so you can see when those kind of peak as well on any given day. So if you think that would be, I think that's where Supervisor Gallowitz was somewhat going to. So we could certainly graph that out per day of, oh, this is when the social peaks, this is when the medical ends, rides, or the employment rides end out. So it might be something we could provide if you so desire.
Yeah, I think so, because to Chair Shadron's comment earlier about average cost per ride, well, if you only have 15 riders on a Saturday or Sunday and you have 3 drivers and they're employed from X to X, that's a pretty costly ride.
Yeah.
So what is the demand and does it make sense to continue to provide that service for 10 hours, whatever, if the usage, is predominantly, where is it? If, for example, the usage on typically we got one, most of it is 8 to 3. Well, at minimum, cut out those extraneous hours. And if you only have, a small percent of riders on average, monthly or et cetera.
Not breaking it down, and just thought about that. Of those rides, were they all employment, where they're gonna be there the next Sunday, and the next Sunday? Or were they social, where this was just a one-time out, one-time done? They're not gonna be there. It would be nice to see that, bringing this up, it would be nice to see, if it's employment, chances are, unless their employment changes, they're gonna be there the next Sunday. Or if it's social, were they just going out, or they just went to the store? It'd be interesting, to see that part of it.
Yes, I think that's something we shared with the committee years ago.
Yes.
When we actually reduced our hours on the weeknights and weekends, we kind of showed, okay, past 9 o'clock at that point, what are those people claiming their rides are? Remember, it's self-claimed, correct? So remember that
Yep.
they could call going to the restaurant, food or social. So it is self-claimed, but it's fairly accurate. But so that's something certainly we can, like I said, dive into the details. We've got some time now between now and June to really start looking at this. And at some point here soon, we're going to start getting some more data and some options for the committee to start looking at, probably after the first of the year.
Scott, would it be okay if you could share with some of the new members of the committee that map that you also had, where map rides we were showing from what district to what district? And
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to make a new one unless it's an automatic thing, but just so they can get, because I'm familiar with this whole thing, 'cause I've been doing this for how many years now, but the new members, they never had the opportunity to see all those maps and all this data that we had previously.
Yes, I want to give a thank you for Supervisor Gallitz came in and talked to Charlie last month it was, and now Charlie had that information. I think they ran out of time before he gave him all the data. I know Supervisor Leetzow is expressed interest also with meeting with Charlie to go through some of that data. Certainly we can put it in the next month's agenda, the map that we've shown before and some of the other data. We don't want to overwhelm you with pages and pages of past data, but we're certainly happy to put it in there so you can all see it again and kind of refresh what's all out there, the data that you can have. It's pretty powerful, the information that we can provide you of times and dates and what those people are going to and addresses were picked up, where they're getting dropped off. So it's a lot of good data behind the scenes that we can certainly provide the committee.
Chair, I guess I'm asking it appropriate for this agenda item or our next one, since the next one is talking about policy and procedure and it's a review of a document, because I just had a few other questions, just trying to determine under which topic is best suited. So I guess maybe I'll throw out the question and
Sure, let's do
you
that
advise-
first.
You
and-
advise me. So I couldn't tell in the policy, so this has been what, 20 years in the making? I think the shared taxi,
Oh, no, longer than that.
longer than that.
At least under the transit division, it used to be the ADRC.
Yeah.
So back when it was created, what problem were we solving for? And are we still solving for that same problem today? I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to understand. So I think that's probably for maybe the next one, policy. But the other question is, I just personally realized that West Bend has its own shared taxi service. And I'm wondering, are there duplicative services then in West Bend? So if I'm a West Bend resident, do I call the county shared taxi, or do I call the West Bend one? And you know what I'm saying, is if we're, so another question I would have is, of those rides, how many are emanating from West Bend that could go to the West Bend shared taxi versus the Washington County shared taxi?
I could even answer that
Oh,
one, but
go ahead.
I'll let you.
You want to try? We're going to geek out here a little bit
Yep.
on taxis and state funding and federal funding. So I try not to lose you. So there is 3 shared ride taxi services in Washington County, actually. Washington County has one. the city of West Bend has one, and the city of Hartford has one. So there's three. Obviously, ours being the largest, city of West Bend's the second largest. We're pretty close in rides, and city of Hartford has, I believe, 3 vehicles now. Is that correct? 3 vehicles compared to our close to 30. And so we cannot duplicate services per getting money from the same funds. So I want to make that first of all clear. The county's service is what we call door-to-door service. We will pick you up at your door if you want to, and wherever you're going to, drop you off at the door. It is door-to-door service. The city of Hartford and city of West Bend provide curb-to-curb service, which means you have to be able to get out to the curb or end of your driveway service and a driveway service. All right, so that's distinction number one. So if you call in the city of West Bend and you need door-to-door service, you then get transferred to the county service because the city does not do that service.
I'm sorry, to be clear, does that mean that the driver's helping somebody get out of a home?
Correct.
Or something and then into the next building? There's like actual, as opposed to just get in kind of a thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Instead of, you think of like a taxi in New York where the cab driver never leaves the taxi.
Yep.
Think about similar to that. Now, they do get out of their taxi to help people, right around the vehicle or whatever, but generally speaking, it's door-to-door service versus curb-to-curb service is the big change. And then it's also about their service areas. City of West Bend's got to stay within the city of West Bend with a little bit of a buffer around it. City of Hartford generally stays within the city of Hartford with, again, a little buffer around it. Now, if you live a quarter mile out or business a little bit away, right, we have agreements that they can go and out, just like we can go into Waukesha County a little bit, right, down to the hospital and clinic down in Waukesha County. We have agreement with Ozaki County. We can go to Ozaki County. So you can do these little agreements off to the side. So yes, we do all have our own separate systems, but we do a little overlap a little bit. Several years back, we tried to merge with the city of West Bend. It didn't go anywhere. As you remember, several years ago, our relationship with the city of West Bend was not extremely positive. And so we did try to merge with them. And then when that failed through, we tried to merge with the Ozaki County. We were successful for that until Ozaki County decided to back out of that system. Unmerge, yes. And so yes, there's a lot of history there, but there are definitely 3 shared ride taxi systems that are all a little bit different. They're providing a little bit different service. The city of West Bend gets the benefit of to be a little more efficient than us because their rides are very short. Whereas ours, we have to, if we need someone who wants to go from the town of Erin up to the town of Farmington, it's a long ride for just a few dollars. Versus with City of West Bend, generally speaking, have shorter runs. But we do work well. I want to say that, even though we had some troubles in the past, our current relationships with both the City of Hartford, City of West Bend are very positive. Charlie meets with them on a quarterly basis to have conversations with them on their services, what we can work with them on, what they can work with us on. And we're actually working with the City of Hartford on a little bit of an MOU too, to say, if you get so big, this little preview what might be coming, with only 3 taxis and all of a sudden you need a demand for the 4th. Well, you shouldn't really be calling the county on that if it's a city taxi, if they don't need door-to-door service. That means you got to look inside your service and maybe provide another taxi out there or something, right? Versus coming to Washington County and saying you should provide this service, not say, it's demand's got to go somewhere else, but inside their own city limits. So that's something we've been working on with them too, and talking with the state on, and how does that work to make sure we're not duplicating services, so not jeopardizing our funding. So that's kind of it, an overview. I'm not sure if I hopefully answered the question on it, and we certainly can discuss more on that if you'd like. But definitely, yes, there are definitely different services.
Right, but they're not mutually exclusive, meaning I can be a county resident living in West Bend and call the county shared
Yes. Oh,
services versus the West Bend.
yes,
service.
I should have mentioned, yes, if you're a city resident and you need to get out, let's say you're a City West Bend resident, you need to get to the Village of Slinger. City West Bend is not going to do that for you. You have to call the county. So it's definitely, we will take City of West Bend residents, and you'll see from the mapping that we do that we definitely take City of West Bend residents out. We also bring people into the City of West Bend for work or social needs or stuff like that. So same thing with the City of Hartford. We will take someone from Slinger to Hartford, Hartford to Slinger. So again, Hartford's got a little buffer around them. West Bend's got a little buffer around them. But so yes, it's interesting when people call and we know it's confusing. That's why we tried to merge. We even tried to merge dispatch, just because in one call. And then that's all they need to do. But it just didn't work out. And we have a vendor. What's not working out well now is we have one of our vendor does our service. City of West Bend has a different vendor doing theirs. And so you can imagine they don't want to play nice together for a call center, dispatch center. And City of Hartford handles its own dispatch in-house.
Right. So I'm sure you won't be surprised. This next question is, do we know how many rides are wholly within West Bend City proper that's using the county shared services? On average.
I don't know if we have that number off the top of our heads, but
Yeah, we could get.
we have that number.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
My,
That's when I talk,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but that's what I'm thinking about it. Well, okay, they could choose either one. If, so long as, if someone needs curb to curb or door to door versus curb to curb. If they need door to door, they're calling Washington County and they live in West Bend and they're traveling within West Bend.
Yes.
But if they, don't need that, they could call either one. So, you know what I'm saying?
They can only call us if they need door-to-door service.
Correct.
Correct. Yes.
But,
Yep.
but if they
If they
want curb to curb, they could call either one.
no, just the city. If it's curb to curb, that's what the city provides. We do not provide curb to curb service. It's gotta be door to door.
So, so if they're going from the city of West Bend to another location in the city of West Bend, they have to start with the city of West Bend cab
They call there first,
first.
and then if they need extra help, then the city says, oh, we can't come and, let's say you're disabled and you can't get out of your house, then call the county.
So you are saying that if they're a West Bend resident, they have, and they're traveling within West Bend, they have to use West Bend.
No, they should call West Bend first. And then West Bend helps them on the phone and says, what kind of service do you need? Can you get out to the curb? If they say you can get out to the curb, then City of West Bend will provide that ride for them. If they say, no, I need help getting out of my house, I need help getting into wherever I'm going, then the city will say, call the county and they'll do it for you.
So the triaging, for lack of a better word, is happening with that dispatch at West Bend.
Yes.
If they can be curb to curb, then it's a West Bend. If it's door to door, then it's county.
Yes, and if by chance they call us first, we do the same triage, right? Our dispatch do the same triage for them too, right? If they call us first because they see our number, they say they don't even know, maybe they don't know the city has a service, right? They call us first and we'll say, what type of service do you need? Do you need door to door, curb to curb? If you need door to door, you call the right number. If you need curb to curb, well, we're gonna give you the number for the city of West Bend to call them and do that. So, but we both triage that, pretty closely.
wow, okay, so
It's not easy for the people. We understand
Yeah.
that.
so that to piggyback off of that play, we know what happens within the city of West Bend. So if the county is transporting within the city of West Bend, we basically are very much assured that it's a curb to curb a door to door situation. My question would then be, what is the percentage? And again, knowing you might not know this now, how much of the rest of the travel are we doing that is ADA, that does require ADA compliance and is door to door? How much of this, after the city of West Bend, do we do where it is the, very needed white glove service?
The challenge we have, and Charlie's going to try to explain this to in a second, with ADA compliance is sometimes you can't ask. So we can guesstimate sometimes, like if they have a wheelchair, for instance.
Yeah.
But there might be another accommodation that they maybe have an ADA accommodation that we just don't know about too. So there's that, like they have a breathing disability or something like that, where they
Sure.
can't, they need help getting from one place to another. So some will help us out by saying that,
Okay,
but we're not required, correct, Charlie? Am I saying that correctly?
And we also have a senior rate and a disabled rate. So someone could be a senior and disabled, but use the senior rate. And so it might not be logged in the system as an ADA trip. So definitely have to work with our provider on how that data is logged. And then also, as Scott mentioned, we don't have a disability verification process. It's an honor system.
right, so I guess I'm just trying to understand of how many people are we truly servicing that are really in need of additional assistance from their door to the next door? In general, what does that look like? I guess, City West Bend or otherwise, it doesn't matter. To me, it would be really nice to know how many people are we just able-bodied people taking to and, from locations that maybe don't have, vehicles versus how many people are, truly needing that additional assistance getting in and out of, facilities.
Okay.
That might be a challenging one to get, but
Because
we can see what we can get.
Like
But
HIPAA.
we can work with our vendor to see if there's a way to work around and get a number,
Sure,
An approximate.
approximate number.
approximate.
Yeah.
Okay, are we good with this? Where we're at? Sounds good. So the last item is,
Sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. Did you have another question?
Many questions to start with. So again, when this came around 25 plus years ago, what was the problem we were solving for? And does it remain the same today?
It-
Which is more of a policy. That's
Sure.
my question. Should we discuss that in the next agenda item?
Although I've been here for 25 years at the county, I wasn't in that part of the business at that time, so I can't speak distinctly to that. But we do know that it started in the Aging Disability Resource Center, ADRC. So an estimate, I guess, would be obviously to move people that didn't have capability, didn't have the ability to get a ride from one place to another, that probably were elderly or disabled at that point. But we can try to find that back in our minutes at the county level. Hopefully we have something along those lines. And obviously we have a mission statement too, so.
Yeah, and in past discussions that we had, I mean, that was basically our focus moving forward as well. Which is why, Supervisor Gallus, which is why we have Sunday drives too for people getting to work, getting to church services. I know the doctors aren't open, but there was a few requests for stuff like that for weekends. And I know we discussed also in the past about eliminating Sundays. And at that time, the county executive said, yeah, I really don't want to go down that road right now. I mean, what would it save us? Maybe 10,000 the budget, billing cycle, maybe 15,000. I don't remember, Scott, did we ever come up with costs if we cut back on a
15.
Sunday?
Yes, we did, and
That was back in 24 for 25 numbers, I believe. So it might be, need some revising, but I think it was around 10 to 15,000.
10 to 15,000, yeah, and at that time, the county executive said, no, let's just keep it going for now. So, I mean, we can definitely revisit that and have that discussion again, but so does that help you out too?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we have it, because we have the resources to take, for wheelchair access and stuff like that, so.
right, I think the way to say it, the current is set up definitely to help the elderly disabled to get where they are.
Sure.
Because of the funding sources that we have, we don't limit it to that. We are not able to just say, we're only going to take elderly disabled, we're not going to take adults. But as you can see from the numbers, we do the lion's share of our program is for the elderly disabled. If you look at the ridership per month in the upper right-hand corner of the spreadsheet, I think we're at, I'm not going to do percentages in my head, but of the roughly 5,000 rides a month, we're giving 3,500 or so for elderly disabled. Some agency fares, again, hospital fares, which could also include elderly or disabled. Agency fares could also include that group as well. So students, obviously students and adults don't claim any other category. So you can definitely say that a lion's share of our current percentage is utilized by elderly and disabled.
Right, 68%.
Is that what it is?
If I
Okay.
see that correctly.
An agency is often,
Oh, there you go. Yeah, percentage at the bottom. And agencies are often,
agency is often disabled individuals.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Agency is often
agencies,
disabled individuals.
the agency fares are often disabled.
Yeah.
So you're closer to 80% that are elderly disabled that it's servicing. And that is why when we looked at a budget a couple of years ago, we increased the fares on the adults. And then not so much on the elderly disabled because they were such a
They're
high
a
demand on
rider-
service.
High rider counts.
And so it is obviously correct to assume that of that 80-some percent, 42% of those riders are using it for employment, and that elderly and disabled, and then roughly 27% for medical purposes.
If I break that
Is that
down
a fair
too.
way to look at those numbers?
Yeah,
I think that's something we could break down for you, again, diving deeper into the data, if you will, taking the elderly disabled and seeing how they're utilizing the service. Is that what I'm hearing? I think that's what you're looking for, is that take the trip purposes down below, but have a trip purposes graph just for elderly disabled and maybe just for the adults, so that you can see, you can break it down by those groups. Is that what you're looking for?
Right. I mean, 2-3 years ago, we had a conversation about the commuter service.
Mhm.
And it was determined by the board that providing subsidized travel for employment wasn't something we want to continue to do. If medical is a good reason, but employment isn't, do we understand how that service is? If that makes sense. Or because it is the predominantly elderly disabled, and the agency is also, and there's a mix, and we're helping support them for gainful employment, those are all part of that equation, I guess,
Mhm.
right? Because if you make a decision on the surface, oh, employment, well, you know what, you have a job, you can pay for transportation. But if you're saying that 80 or percentage of the folks are elderly disabled, well, that's a different story.
Sure.
Very.
Yes. So we'll try to break it down by that. Like we said, by the
But
the
if
trip
you have a
purposes, the trip
40-year-old
purposes by fare type.
Right, a 40-year-old able-bodied person, and they're finding an expensive way to go to work and not, pay for car payments and insurance and all that. That I have I have no qualms with telling that person to go get a lift. But if you have someone, or Uber, but if you have someone in a different predicament, that's a different story.
We also, you have it, hospital, is that, I mean, and then down below, it's listed as medical, I know those, it's not the same, but are we saying that we are legitimately taking people to a hospital? Are we potentially saving people from using an EMS service in this case? Or is that just also like a medical?
So the hospital is through,
Speak a little closer.
oh, sorry, it's subsidized through, those are trips subsidized through the Medical Foundation of Hartford and Freightert, Theta Care Foundation. So they cover half the trip. So it's just a separate fare category, the hospital.
Okay.
So it's just for those specific hospitals. And the medical could be medical appointments. But we're not an ambulance service.
Right, but those people, Charlie, that she's asking for, so when those people are there, that's the hospital fares, people going to the hospital and from the hospital, correct?
For one of the foundations, it's to and from, and then one is only from if you have a voucher. So they both have different.
Right,
So
so
these would
when,
be, these are predetermined appointments. This isn't like, I guess what I was saying is like, an expense, a ride in
Correct.
EMS is a very big expense
yes,
to people. So these are probably predetermined. You have a voucher. They know they're coming and going to these
Yes.
appointment type things.
yes.
Okay,
And generally speaking, our shared ride taxis at least 24 hours in advance, so
okay.
if you want to sit at home and wait.
I just wanna-
you're
there's that,
Yeah.
conversation we're also having to
Yes.
kind of rule that out. So, yeah, okay, that answers that.
Is everybody good now? Okay, thank you, Charlie. Okay, for the last item, a transit policy update, guys, I don't know if we're gonna vote on this. I think we might wait till next month when we have all our members here. So it's up to you guys. Do you want to hear about it now? We're gonna hear about it again next month when Supervisor McCulick is back. Or do you want to just table it till next month?
We're gonna go through it again.
We probably would when Supervisor McCulick is here.
We'll have to go through it when he's here. So
Yes.
If that's the case, I don't know that I need to hear it twice.
Okay, is everybody okay with that then? Just waiting till next month? I'm sorry, did you?
Unless there's research or something that we might request.
I think it might be best if we could high level it for you today.
Sure.
That way, if you have questions, this is why we brought it forward today is this does not need to be completed till the end of the year. I want to make sure you're hearing that loud and clear. This is not something you got to approve today or even next month, but we want to give you enough time to look at these items that are before you today and not kind of get it through really quickly. And so if we could high level this for you, that if you have questions, like we just had in the last segment, which is fantastic, we can actually get those questions back to you. So if you want to know, well, how many people does this impact or affect, we can then bring some of those numbers maybe back to you next month so that you feel more comfortable voting on them. So we can maybe, if you're okay with it, Mr. Chair and the committee, to high level some of these items for just a few minutes at least, so you can kind of get a feel for what we're talking about. Some of the stuff you have some decisions on. Some of the stuff, because we're now in the state system, we don't have a decision on. So there might be some decision points, but some of the stuff you're going to find out is like, yeah, this is the way the state is going to require us to go. So if you're okay with taking just a few minutes more of your time, we can kind of high level it. And
Sure.
if you have some
Seems like the
questions, we can
census is-
bring those back next time.
Go ahead. and-
We're on overtime anyway.
Now that you put it that way. So now that we're moving on to C, transit policy update, go ahead, Scott, or Charlie, you
I'm
have the
gonna turn
floor.
over Charlie. He'll run through those. I kind of
Awesome.
ruined his first segment.
Oh, yeah,
today,
yeah.
so,
So, 10 pages.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I guess the first policy question. So this, there's no current policy for this. So this is for comfort and service animals. So the ADA requires us to accommodate service animals. Policies for comfort or emotional support animals vary by agency. So the state gives us an option where we can either allow service animals in a carrier with prior approval, or do not allow comfort animals. So our recommendation is to not allow comfort animals. I believe, just the possibility of allergies or, there's training required for a service animal, but a comfort animal, you don't know the level of training for that animal. So our vendor agrees on not allowing comfort animals. The next item, were there any questions on, should I go through each?
So
one,
for
or-
clarification, the state's saying you have to allow comfort animals, but our policy is no.
No, the state is saying, we, are required to allow service animals, but it's up to us on whether, we want to allow comfort animals. So it could be yes or no. The state
Okay.
is giving us. no.
They want us to have a policy on comfort animals is what it comes down to.
Versus comfort.
Correct.
Yeah, service
So your service animal is, I think everybody understands what the service animal is, right? But the comfort animal could be, I need an emotional parrot, or I'm taking my dog to the vet, right? They could say it's a comfort animal, right? And taking a dog to vet. So the question comes down to is, with the comfort animals, do you want to say, nope, you find another way to get your dog to the vet, or if you need a comfort parrot, you're on your own. Or say, yes, we allow it, but they got to be caged up or whatever. So the state says the state is only telling us you have to have a policy, not telling us what the policy
Okay,
is.
so how do you differentiate between a service and a comfort? I mean,
There isn't.
somebody gonna
it-
tell you
I-
this?
Self-
That's very,
self-
it's very
self-
gray in that, right?
Self-determined. Whatever when they call up and they say the parrot's a service parrot, okay, it's a service
Well,
parrot now.
Well, Charlie will attest to this, but I thought at least under ADA, now you're talking about a section here, what might be a little different, but the ADA, the law only says a service animal is defined as a dog. That's it, period.
Yeah, I believe you're right in the service animal being a dog. I can double check that for the next meeting, just bring that clarification. I do believe that's correct, but also as Scott mentioned, that we're not allowed to ask for documentation for the service animal. So
So there's a gray area there that we have. So if they say it, even though it's not true, not a whole lot we can do. So that's the challenge.
Hmm.
So
So then
So it would basically be any animal other than a dog. You could for sure say that cannot come in the vehicle.
if you apply
If we
Yeah.
apply.
if you
this.
do what the recommendation is, yes. We believe so.
And I can get clarification on, the dog,
And
statement.
since we're talking policy, even if it's a service animal, if that animal has a accident, is there policy for a fee for the cleanup of that? That's now a biohazard presumably, so who has to pay for that?
And I never even thought of that part.
I think that's why we just, if you limit it to just the service animals, like Charlie said, most of them are trained. Hopefully that doesn't happen. We can certainly find out if that has been a problem in the past, but if it hasn't been a problem in the past with service animals, and we can't deny that either, so.
Right, but we could presumably charge for the cleanup of that.
We'll see if that's been a problem or not before
Yeah,
we,
I mean, if it's
right.
not a problem,
Mhm.
but again, if you don't account for things, things will happen.
Well, or a surcharge as well.
Right.
My dog sheds like crazy.
Oh, yeah. My dog.
Regardless of service animal or not, there would be, when you go to rent, an Airbnb or a hotel, a lot of times there is an additional service fee for having an animal in there. So to your point, that could be just sort of built in as well as an additional.
I don't know if
I don't,
would state allow us to bill extra if they bring a service animal?
we would check with them.
We'll check.
I don't know if that would be part of the rules.
That'd be,
right?
I think that'd be a tight one to get around, but
Yeah,
we certainly, it doesn't hurt to ask.
right.
Okay, the next policy was a
considered.
maximum advance reservation window. So it defines how far ahead a rider can book a trip. So the current policy just encourages riders to call at least a day prior, but we don't have a maximum window in our policies. So the state requires us to explicitly state a maximum advance reservation window. So working with our provider, we came to a 30-day reservation window to align with what they're currently doing for the taxi.
Okay.
Alrighty, and then driver assistance limitations, this goes to your door-to-door question. Currently, there's not too much on our policy for door-to-door limitations of the drivers. Current policy is that they'll go no further than the lobby for a pickup or drop-off, and that specialized services available for individuals. The state policy, the state template policy has a lot more information for that policy. So the staff will not lift passenger, leave vehicle unattended, or at a visual observation for a lengthy period of time, enter a rider's home, care for service animals, operate a power chair, provide personal care, attendant service, or take actions that would be clearly unsafe. So this would definitely help our provider give answers to questions riders have on how far they'll go, if they'll go into the lobby, or if they'll hospital will require the driver to take the person to their to their room or appointment. This sets a firm limitation on how far the drivers can go from the vehicle. So we recommend updating the current policy to add the state template limitations. So the state template policy, as well as our current policy that will go no further than the lobby.
So I do have a question on that. How much, and you might not know this, but again, for next meeting, do we currently hear from our drivers that we are needing to help I could see helping to get somebody out of a home, or, how much lifting are the drivers currently, is that part of their current job description? That they need to be able to do those types of things? Will there be people that we are currently servicing that we might not be able to service if that is, again, that would just be, who would we be leaving behind if that is, if we adopt the state recommendation?
So currently the drivers have training as part of their onboarding and ongoing training for how to handle passengers. Since there's not currently a firm policy, it might be an internal policy with with the vendor, so I can get any anecdotal evidence for driver situations where they have done excessive or assistance for an individual. And if currently what they're doing, if they can't do that assistance, where those riders would be going.
And this might, I mean, this might be as like a very silly, maybe a silly question on this. If we are currently helping or, you know, doing the door to door, because they're a driver and even with training, they're not medically trained, right? I mean, I do know that there's certain ways of lifting and definitely not lifting. Are we currently susceptible to having, you know, if something were to happen because we don't lift somebody correctly, our driver doesn't, is that something that could fall back on Washington County? That would go to the driver services, something to that effect. And so could we be kind of helping ourselves, help them steer clear of things like that? I was
This,
mentioning.
this helps our drivers be very clear about this I can do, that I can't do.
Mhm.
That's very good.
Yeah,
But on the first question, can they come back and sue us? Well, number one is anybody can sue anybody for any purpose. Doesn't mean it's legitimate, but
Yeah.
would they have insurance in place for
Right.
that very purpose to
This
protect
seems-
us?
like where the rest of society is going anyways.
Yeah, I believe we should have limitations. If the Wisconsin regs say this is what the drivers can, services they can provide up to, there shouldn't be addition. And if there are some patients, which some riderships that need to go to a certain facility, they likely have a personal assistant with them. I think maybe to Supervisor Litzau's concern that are well versed with that, their clients' needs and can provide that, whereas the driver presumably can't and shouldn't.
Correct.
So by policy, then it makes it very clear what we can provide the rider with, and if we can't provide that service, then they have to look at some alternative. So I don't think that's unreasonable. I think it's a reasonableness test, and I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a driver to be trained in et cetera in all areas. And to your point, it help mitigate liability that we could potentially be exposed to.
That's part of, we won't get to it in this policy. At the end, there's a reasonable modification request. A rider can fill out a form asking for the service provider to do a specific request, you know, such as bringing them to this location or, you know, providing this service. And so it's kind of a paper trail for the provider on their denial and why they're denying the trip. We're currently working with the city of Hartford on a process where if they deny a trip because they do curb to curb, then it gets referred to us and we have documentation on, you know, the individual's, you know, limitations, why it's being referred to us. So that's part of the process we're working on, kind of to clearly define that triage process we talked about.
Charlie, you're referencing, I think, page 26, request for reasonable modification form. That's what you just alluded to. If a rider needs specific modifications, they would request that via that form.
Yes.
Yes,
And that's in policy today?
that
We're
is,
just adding the 30 business days, it looks like.
let's see here. So that is an internal policy we're working on, so it was included in this one. It's required by the state to have, so it's a newer form that will be adopted with this policy. I can highlight that in the next meeting notes agenda.
Guys, we're kind of running short on time, so we're gonna have to bump through the next couple things here,
Okay.
so.
Uh, Okay, I'll just go through these quickly. So excessive no-shows. Of course, save the most complicated ones for last. So currently we have a no-show policy, and it's if you no-show, which is defined as not present when the driver arrives, not ready within 5 minutes, canceling less than an hour, or not having the fare. That defines a no-show. So our current policy is if you have 3 no-shows in 60 days, then you can face a suspension, or in this table is called a violation. But the state requires adhering to the FTA ADA circular, which it can't be any longer than a 30-day period. So our 60-day period has to be reduced to 30 days. And then there also has to be a percentage of their trips. So it affects people proportionally to the amount of trips that they're taking. Someone who takes 3 trips versus someone who takes 60 trips, missing a number of no-shows is a different scenario. And that's why I've included the tables for how many no-shows trigger a violation, depending on how many trips that they've had within a 30-day period. That's one-way trips.
So items 4 and 5 are kind of combined, right?
Yep, and then 5 is the suspension schedule based off
Okay,
of those violations.
gotcha. Okay,
But quick, my thoughts on that are, adopt the state statute progressive suspension schedule. I call it the voluntary payment to get out of jail. I think that needs to also be progressive and meaningful. I don't even know if there is a problem to some of our other questions. It may not even be an issue and we don't face it often, but again, if there's a repeat offender, well, then it should be enough of a penalty to change their behavior. So, the minimum of the 3 fares plus some penalty, for example, that is aligned with the progressive suspension schedule, to me, doesn't seem unreasonable.
We're looking for dollar amounts in there from them.
Let's see. Yes, you're talking about the suspension schedule.
Yeah, right. So the ability to volunteer, because that's one of the
Oh, right.
policy questions for us.
Mhm.
Is there an option to voluntary payment to get out of the suspension?
Yes, currently there is a $10 voluntary payment, but we just have a 21-day suspension. We don't have a tiered violation system right now. So this would be introducing a tiered system, like you mentioned, where repeat offenders then face, an increasing penalty. And I left an X there for the option of increasing the voluntary payment amount as well.
To change behavior, if it's repeating, then there has to be a sizable penalty to change that behavior.
But it can't be too punitive, right?
I did not have
Do you have some dollar amounts in mind that we can share with the state? There's also the point of being too punitive too, that they kind of fringe upon us, like it was $1,000 or something like that, right? I mean, I know that's not what you're going for, but if you have some dollar amounts in mind, we could then take those back to the state. It'll be a great thing to do. Then we can bring those back to you with the state comments, because some of these we have to go by the state. So if you have a dollar amount, 10, 20, 30,
Either that
40,
or
if you want to go
think
higher.
about it and bring it next time.
No, we're limited for time, so I'll give some thought.
If you get us to it before the meeting, so we can run it by the state, but if someone has some dollar amounts, we'd appreciate that. Yeah, we're good, Supervisor. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and then the last one is just weapons policy. We don't have a current policy for weapons on whether a rider can possess firearms or weapons. So the state required policy is no weapons are allowed of any kind, except those allowed by state law. So that's,
It's like an oxymoron.
yeah,
Yes.
It's, you can't bring, unless they're allowed by, open carry is allowed by law. Concealed carry is now allowed by law. So what are they really trying to say?
I think there would need to be more definition that would come back from that, and then also what the ramifications would be if,
Well, we already ran this by the county attorney. He really doesn't have any idea what this means either. And so since our drivers don't go out there and actively frisk people, stuff like that. So I think to the supervisor's point where it just, it's put in there, the state's language, we don't have much of a choice. This is one we don't have choice. This is coming from the state. So their language is gonna be a language we gotta put in there. And if we do see a problem coming up, we can let you know, but they're not out there actively looking for weapons.
Just
On
a real
people to deny them, right?
quick cap on that, though, if this is our policy, do we have to post a no weapons allowed except for by state law or something like that on a vehicle? It's just a policy. Okay. Do we have to make a motion to table or we just don't? Then we're, okay, so everybody got what they need for next time? Sounds good. Appreciate it, Charlie. All right, our next meeting date is September 17th, 2026 at 3 PM. This meeting's adjourned.